He had an IQ that placed him in the top 1% of all humans who have ever lived. At 16, he was accepted to Harvard University. At 25, he had a PhD in mathematics from one of the most prestigious universities in America. At 27, he was a professor at the University of California, Berkeley. His colleagues said he was one of the most brilliant mathematicians of his generation. And then he walked away from everything. He built a 10 by 12-foot cabin in the Montana wilderness. No electricity, no running water, no heat. He lived alone for 25 years, and from that cabin, he waged a one-man war against the modern world. 16 bombs sent through the mail, 3 people killed, 23 wounded, the longest and most expensive manhunt in FBI history. For 17 years, nobody knew who he was until his own brother turned him in. This is the story of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, the most dangerous genius in American history. Theodore John Kaczynski was born on May 22nd, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois. From the very beginning, it was clear he was different. At age 5, he tested with an IQ of 167. At 10, he was doing high school-level mathematics. At 16, Harvard University accepted him on a full scholarship. He was the youngest student in his class, a quiet, awkward boy surrounded by older, more socially confident peers. His time at Harvard would later be described by Kaczynski himself as one of the most damaging periods of his life. He participated in a now infamous psychological study run by Harvard professor Henry Murray. Students were subjected to intense, humiliating psychological interrogations, their beliefs deliberately attacked and torn apart. The study lasted 3 years. Some researchers who have studied Kaczynski believe this experience permanently damaged his psychological state. He graduated, he earned his PhD, he became a professor. But something was profoundly wrong. He could not connect with people. He struggled with basic social interactions. He felt alienated from his colleagues, from his students, from the world around him. In 1969, without warning, he resigned from his position at Berkeley. He gave no explanation. He simply walked away. He moved to his parents' home in Illinois, then to a remote plot of land in Lincoln, Montana, and he began to build. The cabin Kaczynski built was 10 feet by 12 feet. No electricity, no plumbing, no phone. He grew his own food. He hunted. He read. He lived almost entirely off the grid, by choice. But in the wilderness, his rage was growing. He watched as logging companies destroyed the forests around his cabin. He watched as technology consumed the world he had left behind. And he decided someone had to do something. On May 25, 1978, a package was found at the University of Illinois at Chicago. It appeared to have been misdelivered, so it was returned to the apparent sender, a professor at Northwestern University. When the professor's secretary opened it, it exploded. She survived. But Ted Kaczynski had announced himself to the world. Nobody knew it yet. Over the next several years, more packages arrived at universities, at airlines, at technology companies. The FBI named the case Unabomb for university and airline bombing. They called the unknown suspect the Unabomber. The bombs were handcrafted, completely untraceable, made from wood, wire, and materials available in any hardware store, each one more sophisticated than the last. Kaczynski had no motive that investigators could understand, no demands, no pattern, no connection between the victims. For years, the FBI had almost nothing. Through the 1980s, the bombs kept coming, each one more carefully designed, more deadly. In 1985, the owner of a computer rental store in Sacramento picked up a piece of wood from the parking lot outside his shop. It was a bomb. He was killed instantly. It was the Unabomber's first murder. In 1987, a woman witnessed a man in aviator glasses and a hooded sweatshirt placing something outside a computer store in Salt Lake City. A composite sketch was released. Kaczynski saw it. And for the next 6 years, he went completely silent. No bombs, no contact. Nothing. The FBI assumed he might be dead. Then, in June of 1993, he came back. 2 bombs in 2 days. A geneticist in California, a computer science professor at Yale. Both survived, but barely. The UNABOM task force, which had grown to include hundreds of investigators, went into overdrive. But Kaczynski was careful, methodical, brilliant. Every bomb was handmade, every component sourced locally and untraceable. He left no fingerprints, no DNA, no digital trail. Because he had no digital trail to leave, he lived in a cabin with no electricity. In 1994, a mail bomb killed an advertising executive in New Jersey. In 1995, a bomb killed the president of a forestry industry association in California. 3 dead, 23 wounded, and still no name, no face, no lead. In 1995, Kaczynski made a decision that would end everything. He sent a 35,000-word document, a manifesto, to major newspapers. He called it Industrial Society and Its Future. In it, he argued that technology had destroyed human freedom, that the industrial system was leading humanity toward catastrophe, that the only solution was a revolution against technology itself. He promised to stop bombing if the manifesto was published in full. After intense debate, the FBI encouraged publication, not to satisfy Kaczynski's demands, but because they believed someone would recognize the writing. On September 19, 1995, the Washington Post and the New York Times published the manifesto in full. And someone did recognize it. David Kaczynski, Ted's younger brother, read the manifesto and felt a cold wave of recognition wash over him. The ideas, the phrasing, the specific arguments. He had read versions of them before, in letters from his brother. He spent months wrestling with what to do. And then, in February 1996, David Kaczynski contacted the FBI. FBI agents descended on Lincoln, Montana. They established surveillance on the cabin. They confirmed the identity of the occupant. On April 3, 1996, agents approached the cabin on foot through the forest. They knocked on the door. Ted Kaczynski, thin, bearded, dressed in ragged clothes, opened the door. He was arrested without resistance. Inside the cabin, investigators found a live bomb ready to be mailed, bomb-making components, and detailed instructions. The original manifesto, in handwritten form. Journals documenting years of bomb-making and planning, and a meticulous record of every attack he had carried out. It was the end of the longest and most expensive manhunt in FBI history. At trial, Kaczynski fought to represent himself. He wanted to use the courtroom as a platform for his ideas. The judge refused. On January 22, 1998, Kaczynski pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was sentenced to 4 life terms plus 30 years. He spent the rest of his life at ADX Florence, the most secure federal prison in America, known as the Supermax, a place designed for people too dangerous for any other facility. His neighbors there included some of the most notorious criminals in American history. In June of 2023, Ted Kaczynski was found dead in his prison cell. He was 81 years old. His death was ruled a suicide. His manifesto is still read today by academics, philosophers, and technologists. Some of his predictions about technology and human alienation have been called unsettlingly accurate. That is perhaps the most disturbing legacy of Ted Kaczynski. Not the bombs, not the deaths, but the fact that a brilliant, broken man, living alone in a Montana cabin, wrote 35,000 words about where the modern world was heading. And some of it turned out to be right. His brother David, who turned him in, has spent years living with that decision. He has said he would do it again, but that it cost him everything. In the end, Ted Kaczynski got exactly what he had always wanted: to be heard, just not in the way he had hoped. Do you think Ted Kaczynski was a terrorist or a prophet? Drop your answer in the comments. New true crime case every week. Subscribe so you never miss one. Next case is one of the most shocking stories ever told.